Here we go. The mock test, like the real test, always starts with read and select. This is where you have to say if a word is real or not. The key tip here is only say a word is real if you are completely confident about it. So asset, I know that that's a word. I know the meaning of that word. Innovation, I know the meaning. Tellity, no, looks and sounds real but is not a real word. Concern, yes, I know what that word means. Complication, no. Withstand, yes. Vaccination, yes. Restless, no. Right, yes. Tottering, no. Resignation, yes. Outset, yes. Sparsely, yes. Apporting, no. A renter, no. Bid, yes. Explaining, no. Mislead, yes. Then for fill in the blanks, the key is you should read the sentence because when we read, our brains predict the next word. So often you can get the correct answer just by reading the first part of the sentence. The protagonist's internal struggle. See, that's a good example. The protagonist's internal struggle. Protagonist means main character. An internal struggle is a phrase I've seen before. So my brain was able to give me the answer without even reading the second part of the sentence. Do you have blank coverage for your new car? Insurance coverage. Here, I needed to read the full sentence to get more context clues, and in particular, coverage for your new car. Insurance coverage is, again, a phrase I've seen many times. The teacher blank the concept of creating a fun and welcoming learning environment. Embraced. Another one where I needed the second half of the sentence, right? So a teacher wants to have a fun and welcoming learning environment. So I needed a word similar to want, embraced. You've blank to playing full songs because you've been practicing the guitar for months, right? Progressed. So you've been practicing for months and you have gotten good enough, you've moved forward enough, or progressed to play full songs. What color should I paint a blank along the top of the room? A border. I think it should be border along the top of the room. So if you imagine a room, something that goes around the room, right, along the top of the room, a border makes sense to me. The project followed a blank approach with each task being completed fully before starting the next. A serial. Ooh, tough word. Serial means one after another. A series. Gathering consensus on public opinion is challenging due to blank views on key issues. Disparate means different or far away. So that's why it's hard to find consensus. There's different views. I found the book exciting, unlike the reviews that claimed it was dull. And notice how I don't click continue, so whenever the timer gets to 0 on the DET, your answer will be submitted. In her blog post, she couldn't help but blank about the stunning sunset views from her new apartment. Rave. Rave means to speak highly of, to say very positive things about. So she is presumably happy about the stunning sunset views. Then, after fill in the blanks, you move to the mixed language skills where you have listen and type, and read incomplete, and maybe one other question type mixed in. But the point is you need to be alert so that you can respond
I
to
tried a little bit of every dish.
I tried a little bit of every dish. So the first question in the third section is always listen and type. So whenever you come to the third section, be ready to listen. Then for listen and type questions, here's the strategy I recommend. The first listen, which happens automatically, type as much as you can. Then, if you have any weak areas, use the second listen to focus on those and fill them in, and then use the third listen to proofread. That's the ideal. So I tried a little bit of every dish. I think I got them all correct. However, you should use all of the replays and all the time you have available because you don't gain points by going faster.
I tried a little bit of every dish.
I tried a little bit of every dish, and I'll use the final replay because, again, you don't gain points by going faster.
I tried a little bit of every dish.
There we go.
Improving the public education system will help the country compete in global markets.
Improving the public education system will help the country compete in global markets. Okay, I think I got everything, but I'm going to use my remaining listens.
Improving the public education system will help the country compete in global markets.
Yep, I think that's correct.
Improving the public education system will help the country compete in global markets.
There we go. Cool. I think that that's correct, but we could stay here and proofread carefully, use all the time available, but I'm confident that this is correct, so I'll move on. All right. This is our first read and complete question. For these types of questions, the first step is always to read the title and read the first and last sentences. The reason is that you will always have a title and the first and last sentences will always be complete. And reading those gives you valuable context so that you can know what the passage is about. So, solar energy breakthroughs coming soon. It is being reported that new breakthroughs in energy technology are just around the corner. We hope to see these advances implemented across the country in the next 20 years. So, this passage is about solar energy breakthroughs. Then, what you should do is read through the passage like you would fill in the blanks and get the easy ones first. So if your brain gives you any of the answers as you're reading, fill those in, get the easy ones, and then come back and get the more difficult ones. So these advances will be crucial to the blank of the global climate. A switch to solar energy should be a priority for all blank governments. So there were two that I didn't get easily. I'm going to go back and get them now. These advances will be crucial to the blank of the global climate. Maintenance doesn't fit. To the maintaining of the global climate. The maintaining of the global climate. So you can see I thought maybe maintenance would be good, but it doesn't fit. So I went with maintaining. A switch to solar energy should be a priority for all ST governments. For all This one's tricky. I'm not sure what it could be. A switch to solar energy should be a priority for all I am stumped. I don't know what this one could be. A switch to solar energy should be a priority for all. Okay, I can't get this one. If you know the answer, leave a comment down below so that everybody else can know what the answer is.
Some researchers believe that the unconscious mind is the source of creative inspiration.
Some researchers believe that the unconscious mind is the source of, and then I didn't get the final part. So that's what I'm going to focus on in the second listen.
Some researchers believe that the unconscious mind is the source of creative inspiration.
Of creative inspiration is what she said. And then I'm going to use the final listen to proofread each word.
Some researchers believe that the unconscious mind is the source of creative inspiration.
There we go.
When he stood up, he realized that his leg had fallen asleep.
Okay. I'm going to use the second listen to just proofread.
When he stood up, he realized that his leg had fallen asleep.
Aha, and I spotted a mistake. Had fallen asleep, not has fallen asleep. And then I'll use the final replay just to proofread again.
When he stood up, he realized that his leg had fallen asleep.
There we go.
Contrary to our expectation, the teams were quite evenly matched.
Now, what I'm going to focus on here is this word expectation. Usually we use the plural, expectations. Contrary to our expectations, the teams were quite evenly matched. However, it sounds like he says it's the singular expectation. So that's what I'm going to focus on.
Contrary to our expectation, the teams were quite evenly matched.
And indeed, he says expectation, singular. So this is correct. And then I'll use the final listen to proofread.
Contrary to our expectation, the teams were quite evenly matched.
Okay, that's correct. Apologies that I am wiping my nose. I have allergies today.
Psychology teaches us that our behavior influences our beliefs.
Psychology teaches us that Okay. Psychology teaches us that our behavior influences our beliefs. Here we go.
Psychology teaches us that our behavior influences our beliefs.
Cool, that's correct. Now let me make a note here about the spelling of behavior. For the Duolingo English Test, you can use American or British spelling in all questions, including listen and type, but you have to use American spelling for read and complete and fill in the blanks, right? Because there you have a specific number of letters that you need to type, and so Duolingo always uses American spelling for those. But here, if you're familiar with British spelling, you could put this and you would still get full marks. But I'm American, so I will use American spelling. All right, the next read and complete question, the perfect host. When Rima hosts people at her home, she bends over backwards to ensure that they are taken care of. While it is lovely to be spoiled in this way, it's also a bit overwhelming. So this is about a host named Rima and how she really tries to make her guests comfortable. In her view, Rima's view, the comfort and relaxation of her guests is of the utmost importance. She emphasizes their desires and would noticeably have to provide them with everything. All right, I was able to get all of those, but anytime you're typing on the test, you should save time to proofread your response. So I'm going to read through carefully, especially because I have 3 minutes, and typically for reading complete, I find that most students have extra time compared to other questions like read and select or fill in the blanks, which are very quick. Reading complete is longer. But I'm going to proofread each word. In her view, cool. That's correct. I'm confident, so I'm just going to move on.
We've ascertained the truth.
We've ascertained the truth. Now, it sounds like he says this in a way that deserves an exclamation point. He's very excited. He is exclaiming this. So listen.
We've ascertained the truth.
We've ascertained the truth. So I want to put an exclamation point. I think it's fine. It could be a period. It's hard to say for sure. In any case, small things like this, an exclamation point or a period or a comma or not a comma, is not going to lose you many points at all. So many students stress about these small details. Don't worry about those too much. There are far more important things that you should spend your energy on.
We've ascertained the truth.
Oh, and let me point out too, he uses the contraction we've. So contractions are common in listen and type questions. He says we've, not we have. So listen out for contractions.
We later realized that the window had been open the whole time.
We later realized... Oh, excuse me. Thought I was going to sneeze. We later realized that the window had been open the whole time. I think this is correct, but we'll use the second listen.
We later realized that the window had been open the whole time.
Cool. All right, there's no areas that I'm not confident about, but I'll use the final listen just to proofread. And apologies again for the allergies today. I'm not at my best, but I wanted to film this mock test video because of the new questions on the test.
We later realized that the window had been open the whole time.
Okay, that's correct.
They liked swimming.
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 They like swimming. Okay, this one's quite easy. I'm a bit surprised that I got a question this easy because on the DET, the questions are adaptive. So what that means basically is if you get a question correct, the next question you get will be more difficult. If you get a question wrong, the next question will be easier. So Duolingo is trying to find the questions at your level. This is why the DET can be so much faster than other tests, because you don't waste time answering questions that are too hard or too easy. So generally speaking, if you find the questions getting more difficult, that's actually a good thing. It means that Duolingo thinks you're at a higher level, so you're probably going to get a higher score actually. All right, a problematic resume. While you could have been a viable candidate, you lack the prerequisite desiderata. That's a very obscure word. We suspect you may have fabricated completely their relationships with you. So, this is about a resume or a CV and some problems on the CV. So, your resume, notice how often the incomplete words appear elsewhere in the passage. Okay, that's pretty common. Your resume is somewhat overblown, so we strongly recommend that you dial back. This is a phrase, dial back. So often the incomplete word is part of a phrase or a co-location. It often appears with other words. The grandiose statements. Grandiose means too big. They're too extreme. On top of that, your references are too illustrious. Okay, so we have some quite advanced vocabulary here, grandiose and illustrious. But because I understood the context, I was able to get these somewhat easily, because I knew that this was about a resume, some problems with the resume, and then I remembered here this final sentence says that the relationships that I was claiming on my resume seemed fabricated or fake. So too illustrious. Illustrious means somebody who's famous, right? So by understanding that I had some references listed that were that seemed fake, I was able to figure out too illustrious and grandiose. Cool. And then, as always, whenever I type, I save time to proofread. Your resumes. Top of that, your resume. Cool. That's all correct. All right. Now we move on to interactive reading. The first question type, you have to select the incomplete words. Notice how for interactive reading, you're not given a title and the first and last sentences are not complete. However, you should still skim through the passage to get a sense of the context. Cool. All right, so this passage is about somebody named Imran from Pakistan, who is a biofuel production specialist. He comes up with a groundbreaking method, and then he meets somebody named Aisha, and they collaborate and have success. Okay, so that's the story here. And then I need to pick the incomplete or the missing words. For multiple choice questions on the DET, the key thing to remember is that you have to evaluate all of the options. So often there are multiple correct answers, let's say, multiple answers that sound good, that could work, but there's always one best answer, and that's the correct answer. So that's why you have to evaluate all of the options to make sure that you identify the best answer and not just the first good answer that you find. So Imran always forgot, painted, ran, knew, missed, knew his small town in Punjab, Pakistan, gave, sold, had, dropped, spread, had untapped potential. As a biofuel production specialist, he had traveled the world studying various techniques and was eager to bring his expertise and innovative models, ideas, choices, creatures, feelings, ideas back to the town where he grew up. Having developed a groundbreaking biofuel production method with a specific focus on the abundant wheat and sugarcane fields, Imran returned with an unwavering determination. So a quick clue here, right? It's not a, but an. So I know that my incomplete word has to start with a vowel sound. So continuous wouldn't work. And believable wouldn't work. It had to be adorable, invisible, or unwavering. So little clues like that can help you eliminate options. Imran returned with an unwavering determination to turn an old abandoned farm into a biofuel production powerhouse. Keep, pull, move, send. Turn an old abandoned farm into a biofuel production powerhouse. It was during this period, dream, time, minute, space. It was during this period. I'm going to say time. So you could see period could work. It was during this period that he crossed paths. It was during this time that he crossed paths with Aisha. I actually think period is slightly better. This is a very tough one. Either one really feels possible, but period just feels slightly better. I think it would be more common, but we'll see next if I'm correct. A local educator who had been advocating for sustainable development and yearned for transformative opportunities for her community. So family could be, planet could be, team could be, but community is going to be the best one. Okay. So let's see if I got those correct. In particular, I want to see, it was during this time. See, I got that one incorrect, but that happens. I got one question wrong. It's not going to impact my score a lot. So stay calm, stay focused. Also, it's important to note here for interactive reading, you have one timer for all of the questions, so you have to keep a good pace. I'm moving a bit faster here because I need to give myself time to get through all of the questions. So once you complete the first paragraph, then you will be given a new part of the passage down here, and you have to pick the sentence that goes in between. So I'd recommend skimming the passage to make sure that you have the correct understanding of it, and don't spend time counting all of your mistakes and stressing out about lost points. Just read the passage and make sure that you understand it. So I'm going to read this part here. A partnership quickly blossomed. Cool. Then I'm going to read this new part. And then I need to identify the missing sentence that connects this part and the new part. So I'm just looking for what fits logically here. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's this one. So the strategy you should use is process of elimination. So this one, solar energy panels. No, that's not what the passage is about. It's about biofuels, right? New electro power station. No, it's about biofuels, right? Green fields. I don't know what green fields is, so we can eliminate that one. This one makes sense, making a lot of biofuel, newfound endorsement, but they haven't been endorsed, and it's not about fishing. So this is the only one that's relevant. Who did Imran meet? Aisha, a local educator who have been advocating for sustainable development and yearn for transformative opportunities for her community. Where did Imran live? Small town in Punjab, Pakistan. Notice here how this is a little awkward because we want to put A. Where did Imran live? A small town in Punjab, Pakistan. However, there isn't an A here to highlight. So that can happen with highlight the answers. Sometimes the grammar can be a little awkward, but just focus on the main idea, right? And answering the question with the key information, even if the grammar is a little awkward. All right, what's the main idea of the passage? Competed against each other. No, they didn't compete against each other. They collaborated. Production project, numerous challenges. That sounds correct. Transform an abandoned farm. This is even better, right? So this seems correct, but this is even better. And we can eliminate these other two. Then we select the title. Town renewed, no. Solar, no. It's this one, right? All the others we can eliminate for one reason or another. Okay, next we go to interactive listening. This question type has a new format starting July 1st, 2025. So as you're preparing, make sure you're looking at the new materials and practice questions. In particular, you have to listen to the scenario. So before
you and your friend are both first-year students and have recently learned about your college's study abroad opportunities for the coming years. The two of you sit down to discuss where you might want to study abroad and what factors you should consider when making a decision.
All right, so the scenario will play after a few seconds automatically, and just listen to it once and get a general understanding of what it's about. So it's about study abroad and learning about study abroad opportunities. Then you have to answer 3 or 4 questions that test your understanding of the scenario. So what I recommend is listen to the scenario once before each question. You have enough time to do that. So what year are you in at college? All right, so I'm going to listen to the scenario and find the answer to this question.
You and your friend are both first-year students and have recently learned about your college's study abroad opportunities for the coming years. The two of you sit down to discuss where you might want to study abroad and what factors you should consider when making a decision.
Cool. I'm a first-year student. What new information did I find out?
You and your friend are both first-year students and have recently learned about your college's study abroad opportunities for the coming years. The two of you sit down to discuss where you might want to study abroad and what factors you should consider when making a decision.
Cool. All right. I found out. So the language used in the scenario is learned. Found out is a synonym for learned. So that's helpful. If you can find the exact words used in the scenario and in the question, that makes it easy, but you can also look for the synonyms. So I found out about my college's study abroad opportunities. Who are you planning to talk to?
You and your friend are both first-year students and have recently learned about your college's study abroad opportunities for the coming years. The two of you sit down to discuss where you might want to study abroad and what factors you should consider when making a decision.
Huh. Okay. I didn't actually catch it, so let me listen to it again.
You and your friend are both first-year students and have recently learned about your college's study abroad opportunities for the coming years. The two of you sit down to discuss where you might want to study abroad and what factors you should consider when making a decision.
Huh. This question is confusing because there's no mention of who I'm planning to talk to, but the only other person mentioned in this scenario is my classmate. So I'm going to go with that. And what are we planning to talk about? We will talk about where to go.
You and your friend are both first-year students and have recently learned about your college's study abroad opportunities for the coming years. The two of you sit down to discuss where you might want to study abroad and what factors you should consider when making a decision.
Okay, so I will be talking to my friend, but this question is confusing because it's who are you planning to talk to? But here it says I sit down with my friend. So it's not something in the future, it's something in the present. That's a little confusing. I think they need to update this question, honestly. And then at the end it says what factors we should consider when making a decision. So I took more time than you should for the scenario. You should only spend about 2 or 2.5 minutes. So I need to continue here to the listen and respond. So here I can only listen to what the other person says one time. Okay, so that's important. Listen carefully.
So, have you given any thought to studying abroad in the future?
All right, then I will use process of elimination. Same thing that we talked about with interactive reading. Evaluate each of the options. Okay.
I'm mostly focused on finding a strong academic program that aligns with my career goals. But I do want to improve my language skills too.
Okay. This one is the most relevant to language skills.
I've been looking into a few countries with strong business programs. However, the cost of studying abroad is another factor to consider.
Okay, so she's worried about the cost. Okay, this one's the most relevant.
It's definitely something to think about. Maybe we should make a list of our priorities and what we want to get out of our study abroad experience. And once we've got a list, we can see if there's a destination that meets our preferences.
All right, so one trick to share, because I have some time here, is usually the responses will, or your options here, they have like two parts. So the first part is the immediate response, right? In that case, it's important to also consider your mental health and overall well-being. Don't worry, it can be a complex topic. I like that idea. Yeah, I think that's a better approach. That sounds like a great learning opportunity. So when I'm eliminating options, I always look at this first sentence. So here, that sounds like a great learning opportunity. That's not a good response to what she said. She didn't mention anything that sounds like a learning opportunity, so I can eliminate that one. Yeah, I think that's a better approach. Yeah, that could be, maybe. I like that idea. That's a very logical response. So then I'll continue reading. Maybe we should also attend a study abroad information session at our college to get more advice and guidance. Yep, that definitely makes sense. Don't worry, it can be a complex topic. That doesn't really make sense, right? To say, don't worry, it can be a complex topic. It's not clear complex concept. There isn't a specific concept that she talked about. And the first one here, in that case, it's important to also consider your mental health and overall well-being. Kind of relevant, but in that case is a bit weird. So anyhow, I always look at the very beginning here to see if I can quickly eliminate any options, and then I don't even have to read the entire option. And then I save myself valuable time. All right. Then you should save around 30 seconds to review the conversation. So listen to the scenario and review the key details. Okay. So my friend and I discussed study abroad opportunities at our university. We talked about the various factors to consider, including cost and how a particular study abroad program would, let's say, how particular study abroad programs would fit with our career goals. We ended the conversation by deciding to list out the various factors and attend informational sessions about the study abroad options on offer. And as always, when typing on the DET, save time to proofread your response. There we go. All right, this reminder always pops up, but it's an important reminder. You need to stay focused on this screen. So usually when we are speaking, we will look around as we think like that. You need to train yourself to not do that. All right, writing. Oh, this image depicts a woman cleaning the window of a shop. She is wearing a pink sweater, black tights, high leather boots. I'm just going to say leather boots. They're not really high. Leather boots and purple latex gloves. The shop seems nice, but nothing too fancy. It's not clear what it sells. Okay. All right, so for write about the photo, you have to think and write pretty fast because you only have a minute. All right, here's interactive writing. So you're given the prompt in 30 seconds to prepare your response. You should use all of the 30 seconds to prepare. So describe a time you were surprised in a positive way. What happened? Provide specific details, reasons, or examples. So I'm just going to pick the first thing that pops into my head. That way I can use my time to prepare my answer and think about the details. So here we go. A time I was surprised in a positive way was when my friends surprised me for my 19th birthday, something like that. I was at school and we were playing soccer in the gym. One of my friends came running into the gym saying that something happened in our dormitory and that someone needed help. I sprinted out of the gym and into our dormitory, only to find a bunch of my friends had gathered to surprise me. They carried me outside, put on some music, and we had a little dance party. It was raining really intensely, and they pushed me under the place where the gutters connected to the drain pipe, where there was a bunch of water pouring out, so that I got completely drenched. So you can see how in my response here, I'm adding a ton of descriptive language, right? Intensely, gutters, drain pipe, right? Using descriptive language like that allows me to use advanced vocabulary and have a very full response. It was such a memorable experience because it really made me feel special on my birthday. Even today, when I think about it, my heart warms and I feel immense gratitude toward my friends. All right, so this is quite a full response. I have a lot of time left. However, for most students, you're not going to be able to type as fast as me because I am an English teacher. So a response length like this is quite good. You should aim for 2 or 3 paragraphs. At least 100 words is what we recommend. You should save time to proofread your response. So at least a minute to proofread. That way you don't lose points because of silly mistakes like typos or grammar mistakes that you can easily identify and fix. So in terms of structuring your response, many students ask for templates and they want to memorize specific templates and vocabulary. I highly recommend against doing that. The reason is, one, if you memorize too much, your results won't be certified. You could even be accused of cheating and banned from taking the DET. So what Duolingo does is check for similarities between your response and past responses. So if you're using exactly the same template and have memorized a bunch of stuff that other people are using, that could cause real problems for you. So your responses need to be original. A much better way to approach writing questions is to understand what Duolingo is looking for and what makes writing good in English. So what I always recommend is start by answering the question you're given as directly as possible. Many students like to put in some introductory sentence of, this is a very interesting topic that I am going to discuss today. Stuff like that is useless. It doesn't gain you points and it takes time away from things that do gain you points. So just start by answering the question as directly as possible. Then use specific information. So here it even says details, reasons, and or examples. Use descriptive language. Right? If you're telling a story, go step by step. Explain each part of the story using advanced vocab, and then reflect on the experience, right? That's always a good idea. What did you learn from the experience, or how did the experience change you? All right, then the follow-up response, you don't have time to prepare, so your response is going to be much shorter, and you'll be asked about something that relates to the first part. Write about any assumptions you had before the surprising event occurred. How did this surprise challenge or change those assumptions? I typically don't do much celebrating of my birthday. I certainly don't expect my friends to surprise me with a celebration. Therefore, the surprise that my friends gave me on my 19th birthday taught me how special you can make somebody feel with not that much effort. So I found that after that experience, I started to care much more about things like birthdays and putting in the effort to make my friends and family members feel special on important days. In other words, before my assumption was that birthdays were not so important to take time to celebrate, but that assumption or belief was changed through the experience of my friends surprising me on my birthday. All right, then I'll save time to proofread for the second part, about 30 seconds, ideally more, but 30 seconds should be enough to do at least some proofreading. Okay, now we move on to speaking. This is speak about the photo. You're given 20 seconds to prepare before you have to respond. In this image, I can see a man, an artist, drawing a portrait of a woman sitting in front of him. The man is using a pencil, and the drawing is in black and white. It appears mostly complete because we can make out the face and hair of the woman. The woman sitting is wearing a button-up shirt and a gray cardigan. She has a bag between her feet, and she seems quite relaxed, and she is looking directly at the artist. The artist is wearing a longer, thicker jacket that is gray and a matching gray cap. In the background, we can see an umbrella and more tables and people sitting out. So I get the impression that this is in something like a plaza. There's also a large tree and a large green tarp that maybe houses market stands or something like this. So perhaps this is a park or plaza in a city where there's cafes and a market and things like that. All right, this is listen then speak. You also have 90 seconds to speak and 20 seconds to prepare. Talk about how commitments can benefit a community. Committed members, how do you think commitments help build trust and cooperation? I believe that commitments benefit a community enormously. And in fact, that commitments are essential to a vibrant community. The reason I believe that communities need committed members is that there is a lot to be gained through consistency. I think that things that are valuable and impactful take time to build because there are always challenges and setbacks, and it simply takes time to overcome those things and build something that then people can depend upon and that people make time for. So, for example, if you want to make a community garden, you need to be there for multiple seasons before word spreads and people know that they can come to plant vegetables and harvest vegetables and to take care of these gardens. If you just try it for one season, it probably won't be successful. And commitments build trust and cooperation in that way because people know that you will be there and whatever you are building will be there. And so it's something that they can count on and that they can count on you. All right, next is the interactive speaking question. This is the newest question type on the test. It's basically an interview. You'll be asked a series of questions and you have 35 seconds to respond.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about your ideal place to live. Describe something you like about where you live.
All right, remember for interactive speaking, you have to click record now. It doesn't start automatically, unlike other questions, so don't forget to click record now. My ideal place to live is in a city with access to nature and with constant warm weather and good food. And my current home, I'm currently living in Zagreb, Croatia, checks many of those boxes, so I find that I am quite happy here.
Interesting. I've got a different question. How might financial considerations impact a person's choice of where to live?
I think that financial considerations play a massive role in determining where somebody lives. If you have a lot of money, then you have more options. But if you don't have a lot of money, then there are many places that will be prohibitively expensive. Big cities like New York or London or San Francisco are too expensive for many people. And this is a real crisis. So if all of your money has to go to rent, then you may not have enough money for food or something like that.
Okay, I've got a different question. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of living in a big city versus a small town.
I grew up in a small town, and as an adult, I've primarily lived in large cities. The biggest difference for me is that in a city, there's a lot more to do. You have concerts, you have different restaurants, you have different kinds of people, you have lectures, you have different kinds of shops. Even just walking on the street is more stimulating. In a small town, things are more quiet and calm, and therefore less stressful as well.
Thanks for discussing your ideal place to live with me. Now I'd like to change topics and ask you a few questions about documentaries. What is a topic you would like to see in documentaries?
A topic that I would like to see covered in documentaries is how different people learn languages. The reason is, as one of the co-founders of Arno, we spend a lot of time thinking about how we can help our students and users more quickly learn English to get the scores that they need on English proficiency tests. So I would really like to have more information about how different people learn languages.
I see. I have another question. How do people choose which documentaries to watch?
People choose which documentaries to watch based on their interests, I believe. Different people have different interests. Some people are more into nature or more into politics and current events or more into history. And so I think that they choose documentaries aligned with that. Some people also may have, let's say, stylistic preferences. They prefer documentaries that are maybe lower budget, some want more production value.
I see. Let me ask you another question. Do you think that documentaries play a role in educating the public about important issues?
Absolutely, documentaries play a role in educating the public about important issues. I can think of one example. When I was in college, there was a documentary published by CNN called Blackfish, I believe, and it was about the orca whales at SeaWorld who were held in captivity, and one of them became quite aggressive and killed at least one trainer. And this documentary led to huge changes at SeaWorld, and I think they no longer keep orcas. So yes, documentaries can impact society greatly.
Thanks for discussing documentaries with me. Have a nice day.
Okay, and then the final section is the writing and speaking sample. So, as it says here, the important thing to note, these will be available to institutions that receive your results. They are also graded, okay? The writing and speaking samples are graded. All right, the writing sample. It's similar to interactive writing. You have 30 seconds to prepare and then 5 minutes to write, but you don't have a follow-up question, so you just have to write an essay in 5 minutes. Intercultural communication can be a valuable learning experience. What can be learned from communication with people from different cultural backgrounds? Support your answer with specific examples. So I'm going to think of a specific example to use to begin with. I completely agree that I've learned that different cultures can have have different approaches to plants. take time for All right, so this is quite a long response, but the key things to highlight here. One, I should be proofreading right now. Okay, so use my remaining minute to proofread, but instead I'm going to explain some things for your benefit. So first, see how I answer the question very directly using the language from the prompt to make absolutely clear my position. Then I will have at least 2 paragraphs in which I share specific things that I've learned through intercultural communication. And I make each of those clear in the first sentence. So first, I've learned that different cultures can have quite different definitions of what is considered rude. Second, I've learned that different cultures have different approaches to plans. Okay, so strong topic sentences for your paragraphs. Then, in the rest of the paragraph, I simply explain or elaborate on my topic sentence, and I give a specific example. Okay, so this is how you should approach writing questions. Don't memorize specific templates and stuff like that. Understand what good writing is and practice and do that on the test. All right, then finally, the speaking sample. So what do you think is the best way to remember what you learn in a lecture or meeting? Explain your reasons and give examples from your own experience. When I reflect on my experiences in university, the best way for me to learn things is as follows. One, I need to make sure that I really pay attention the first time I encounter some new ideas. They say actually that memory is not so much about recall or retrieving the information, but it's about how you put the information into your brain in the first place. So if you don't input or place the memory in your brain properly, then it will be difficult or impossible to retrieve that information. So step number 1, pay attention when you are receiving the information for the first time. Then I used to often, immediately after lecture, I would go by myself and review my notes and make sure that any parts that were tricky made sense. And if they didn't, then I would write down specific questions or flag areas where I needed to perhaps go to the professor to ask questions, right? So I would want to make sure that I identified what I knew and what I didn't know immediately so that I could get answers to those and my confusion or the amount that I didn't understand didn't grow or compound. Then, finally, I would review that material some weeks later, usually in preparation for a midterm, right? So I'd want to review my notes and make sure that everything still made sense. But what I found was that I often didn't understand things very well until the end of the semester. So I really needed to have the full picture of the content of a course, for example, a linear algebra course or multivariable calculus course, right? I remember the semester went, I didn't understand things so well, but at the end of the semester, in preparation for the final exams, I would start at the very beginning. I'd take my textbook and my notes, and I would go through chapter by chapter, and that's when things really started to fall into place because I understood where things were leading and how it all fit together, and that additional context really helped me to remember the material from a class so that I could go into exams prepared very well. I also would redo my notes. So I would take my notes and clean them up and basically create a very nice, concise, organized version of the notes. And that really helped me to remember that information so that I could do well on my exams. Great. All right. I got the highest score possible, 150 to 160. I hope that this was helpful to you. From here, I would recommend that you take a mock test. You can take Arno's mock test for free. Every user gets one free full mock test in Arno, and we give you a overall score like this, but also we give you subscores, and you can see how you did on each of your responses, so which ones you got right and wrong. And we also have detailed AI feedback on your writing and speaking responses. So that feedback really helps you to identify which areas you need to work on. So to take that free mock test, just create your free Arno account, click the link down in the description, and happy studying. You can also check out the other videos on our channel. We have videos about every aspect of the test and tons of vocabulary and strategies and tips and tricks. So really just a ton of stuff that will help you to get a great score on the DET. Thanks for your attention and happy studying.